ever seen a goldfish, bro? It's like.
Questions on the homework?
What?
We should take the test today, shouldn't we?
No.
I make it a good Friday for Mr. Ebersole, because I can set up and just watch it instead of doing
Interesting
it.
choice of words.
I'm sure you.
Questions on the homework?
I have a question before.
It's
I can't
bigger than
remember
the
what I
button.
need to get the U thing away. So like if I did the problem. So if I did.
Do one and you.
-1 plus.
Do any of you in here, while Riley's doing that, any of you in here have the Casio calculator that you're using? It's just a different kind of calculator. Most of you have the TI. Alright, then I don't have to worry about it. It's just gonna if no questions on the homework, I will have all Moodle grades. And again, you find one?
Yeah.
Alright, give me a second. I will have all Moodle grades updated by the end of the day. So check on there and make sure you remind me at the end of the class so we can get on there and see what it's telling you, so I can look at it and try to figure out if I'm doing something wrong or something. Alright? Because it shouldn't be, because I do have grades in there. That makes me mad now. For the last 3 weeks,
I have grades for some of my homework.
did you? If it looks like you don't have any grades in there, that makes me mad, because that makes Josh think that Ebersole's not doing his job. I do have grades.
They're in there.
I'm pretty sure Mike was
Cause
happy.
I was looking yesterday and I'm like, his grades are always updated, but when I clicked on something, I was able to get in and see it.
So we'll look at it, because again, I can't go in as a student.
Right.
I mean, I can, but it doesn't show me the same thing. I don't understand that. I go in as a student, it doesn't show me what you guys see anyway. That makes no sense how the computer's set up. So I need to look at one of your guys's to see what you're seeing, so that I can figure it out. 5. Help me out and read it to me, so I don't have to.
Find point Y on line CD or segment CD such as the ratio of dy to yc is 2 to 1.
We need that's a 1. We need our points, right? So our starting point is C. What's the coordinates of C? For number 5.
2, 2.
D.
What's that?
Negative 1, 1, 2, 3, 10.
10?
1, 10, yeah.
Anybody else looking at it so they can confirm that just to make sure? Not that I think they was wrong or anything, just trying to make sure. Alright, if that's what we're going with, what are we gonna label this one?
What?
Y.
Y.
X1. Every time I go through and label them, if we're doing a ratio, what's this number get labeled? This one? So we're using this formula.
D is wrong, it's 10 negative 1.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, see,
It's
that's
10
why we
negative
do
1, so
this.
these are backwards.
Yeah.
10 negative 1, you just counted wrong. Make sure you're doing that. Good point, because I guarantee
Yeah.
on the test and stuff,
Well, that's.
you gotta remember you're going left or right first, then up or down.
So on here, it says on line CD, but then it says from D to Y to Y to C. So do we go off the line symbol or do we go off
So
what it says?
so what's it say? Does it say?
It says find point Y on line CD, but then it says the ratio of D to Y to Y to C. So would D be the first or
So
the second?
D is our first this time. isn't
Yeah,
it?
that's what I thought.
Alright, so we need to switch these. All it's gonna switch is our little things. We'll have to remember, these are our 2s, these are our 1s, because they're telling us to start at D and go to C. Are we straight now? So we're using this for our X's. What's our N?
1.
times, have your calculators out so you can help me. What's our x1? Be careful since we messed them up. Turn them around. 10. What's our m?
2.
What's our x2? That's all over m plus n, so 2 plus 1. For our y's, let's just write it out. Remember, when you're doing this, if you're using ratios, the only thing that changes from this formula down to this one are these two numbers. Instead of x's, we stick in y's. So everything else is going to look exactly the same, except we put in y sub 1. What is y sub 1? Negative 1. What's y sub 2? Anybody do the top of this one yet?
14.
14, bottom's 3.
Yeah.
4.6.
What is that?
4.6 repeating.
4.6 repeating.
Yes.
Make sure you got a calculator. If you haven't got one yet, it's going to suck next week when we take the test if you don't have a calculator. Anybody do the top of this one yet?
3.
3 over 3. What's 3 over 3? So what's our answer?
4.6.
Now, I don't have a graph up here, but if I just draw a quick graph and sort of estimate it, right 2 up 2, that's about there. 10 would be way out here somewhere, negative 1, about there. So that's our segment. 4, 6, 1. If I go out 4.6, about 4.5, and up 1. Am I somewhere close to my segment probably? Yeah, so it makes sense if I would have graphed it correctly. I'm probably on it somewhere. Other questions? And you just want your answer as a decimal? Is that what you're saying? Just hit
I think so.
hit second, and then that F3 button, and it'll give it to you as a decimal. But when you're looking at that, and I'm going to say this one more time. Watch as I do this. If I have 6 1/3, what's 6 1/3 as a decimal? 6.3 repeating. That 1/3, you got to start knowing. I know you know that 1/2 is what is a decimal? 0.5. That is not hard. 1/4 is 0.25. You got to start knowing that 1/3 is what is a decimal? 3 repeating. 2/3 is what is a decimal? 6 repeating. You got to know those two. All right. I'd much rather you know those two than the 0.5 and stuff. All right. That way, when you're doing something on your calculator and your calculator gives you this answer, and it just keeps going with all 3s, you know that that's saying 4 and what fractional part? 1/3. All right? Because I guarantee on the test, when I make up a problem on the test, if it's a multiple choice question, I'm probably going to have that answer, not that answer. So you got to know that all those 3s on your calculator is that 1/3. And I won't make it easy on you either, because the next answer will probably be 4.5 or something. That way you have to know. You can't just look at the 4 and say, well, I got 4, so that's what I'm going with. Other questions on the homework? Pretty amazing. Midpoints and bisectors. Fill in what you need to fill in. a midpoint, and we will start having definitions, tests, and stuff. So you got to know the definitions of different all these terms. A lot of the times, those quizzes that we've been taking at start, that's what it'll be. Define these 3 terms. Define these 5 terms. Midpoint's one of them that we're going to use a lot throughout the year. So midpoint is a point that is halfway between the endpoints of a segment. Please, please do not use this word. Middle. All right? That doesn't tell us anything mathematical. So don't use middle. It's exactly halfway. So if I'm looking at a segment, and I want to say that A is the midpoint of this segment, what do I know about these 2 parts? They're equal. And we can mark them with those little congruent marks that we talked about earlier. Another word that the book uses a lot, equidistance. What do you think equidistance means? Equidistance. It's that simple. Math, a lot of math is a lot of common sense. Math usually doesn't make up words just to have new terms. So equidistance comes from the fact that it's equal distance. Midpoint of a line segment, this just connects to what we did the last couple of times. Midpoint of a line segment would be at a ratio of 1 to 1. So on some of those problems, you had a ratio that was 1 to 1. What you were finding was the midpoint. You were finding the midpoint of that segment. If we're doing a definitions test, and I say define midpoint, all I want you to say, midpoint is a point that does what? Splits what in half? A segment. Segment in half. So if I draw this line right here, and I tell Michael to come up and put it in the midpoint, is he going to do it? Why not? Where's the midpoint of a line going to be? There isn't one. How come?
It goes on and on
It's
forever.
not, it goes on forever. Rays don't have midpoints either. The only thing that have midpoints are segments. If we're on a number line, if you're on a number line, this is how you're going to find the midpoint. This is the formula to find the midpoint. Kellen, if it helps you, you can move over to that desk. Who usually sits there? Dahlia sits there. I mean, today you can move over there.
I can see.
No, not yet. You're pulled up quicker than I thought it would on this one. When we get done, I'll get done. So finding the midpoint on a number line. If segment AB has endpoints x1 and x2 on a number line, just like we've been doing on the number lines, midpoint M is given by that formula. You add the 2 points, the 2 coordinates, and divide it by 2. Now sometimes you might not have to do this formula, but if I'm on this number line and this is point A, this is point B, and it's a number line, and we're trying to find the midpoint of that, and A might be 4, let's say, I don't know, just making up numbers. This would be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All we do to find the midpoint, take x1 plus x2, ignore that, and divide by 2. What's 4 plus 10? Divided by 2? So the midpoint's going to be at 7. 1, 2, that's 5, 6, 7. So the midpoint would be right there. Same thing we've been doing, just a lot easier because now we're finding the midpoint and not some fractional part like 2/3 or 3/4 or whatever. this on your notes?
Mhm.
What's the coordinates for x here? -3, everybody agree with that? Write that in, what's coordinates for z? The coordinate for z. 8?
Eight.
Now to find it, all we do is use that formula. Midpoint's gonna be -3 plus 8 divided by 2. What's -3 plus 8? 5. 5 divided by 2. 2.5. Now let's make sure. 2.5, tell me to stop when I get to 2.5. So we're saying it's right there. We'll call that M for midpoint. Does that look like it's right in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're on a number line, that's all you do. They're not too difficult. What's coordinates for A?
-5.
F?
7.
-5 plus 7 divided by 2. What's -5 plus 7? 2 divided by 2. So we're saying the midpoint should be right there. Is that true? Yeah, that looks right. Well, it's not easy for Ethan O. I was getting ready to scream and scare him. He woke up on me. You back with us, Ethan?
Yeah.
Are you lying to me?
No.
Back at it again.
Did you have a rough night?
No.
Apone, whatever that person's name is, works at a vintage clothing store. She wants to hang a new sign so that it is centered above the dressing room doors. Given that the dressing room doors have the same width, find the point along the wall that she should use to hang the new sign. So she wants to hang a sign. I'm guessing the dressing room doors are this. She wants to hang a sign right here in the center somewhere on that. If we start from this wall, apparently we're using this wall over here, and it's hard to look at it three-dimensional, but that is what on our number line? 0. Where does the dressing room start at on our number line? 7.5, 7.5. So that's where we're starting at, right? How far out does it go past that? 13.5. We're trying to find the spot right in the middle of that. What's our starting point? Be careful. 7.5. Plus, what's our ending point? 13.5. And we're going to divide that by 2. So 21 divided by 2. 10.5. Now, that means we're going to be at 10.5 right here, but let's go back and read the problem. Find the point along the wall where she should hang the new signs. So what are we saying? 10.5. So we're going from this wall, right? So how far out do we measure? 10.5 from that wall. 10.5 feet from that wall. Scoot your desk back a little bit. I don't know. We got room. I'm not sure why we got these new desks. Have you ever been this close to the front before?
I feel like I keep going up every time I'm in this class.
Every time. Since we got the new desk. When we had the old desk, guess what would happen? Everything, the desk always shifted back, and then if I had just left them alone for a month, everybody'd be piled on the wall back here. Now they're moving forward. I'm not sure.
Look how low these bars are. You need it.
Branson.
Okay.
I'm not punishing you, I'm trying to help you out, that's why I put that desk over there, was for
Grady Thompson.
for some of the big people that I have in class.
Yeah, you got
I'm
it.
not a big person.
Next one, the temperature at 11 a.m. and 8 p.m. Is this on your notes?
Yeah.
8 p.m. are shown. Find the midpoint of these temperatures.
Okay.
Do I really need to draw out a number line and stuff?
No.
So let's just do the fraction here. What's our first temperature? 20. What's our other temperature?
Negative
Be careful. What is it?
six, negative three.
-6. Everybody agree with that?
Yeah.
-3. Which one?
Negative six.
How come it's -6?
Counts by two.
Alright, so each one goes by 2's. So I'm gonna put that in parentheses so I don't get confused. What's 20 plus a -6?
14.
14. 14 divided by 2.
7.
7.
So what temperature would we be at? If we were right in the middle, that would be at 7 degrees Celsius. Fill in what you need to fill in on this. This is a little more important. This is more what we're gonna do all year. We won't be on number lines most of the time. Most of the time we'll be two-dimensional, so we'll be on a coordinate system. And actually this formula, along with the distance formula that I have written up here, I'm gonna write it right here. It's a midpoint formula, because we use it so much. Midpoint formula is x sub m. Anybody have any idea what that m stands for?
The midpoint.
Midpoint. So this is the x coordinate of the midpoint. This is the y coordinate of the midpoint. Probably.
Oh.
Not if you and Josie keep talking back there though. You are gonna move to that desk here real soon.
Sorry.
Don't be sorry, just know it's gonna happen.
What was that thing that you told him at the beginning of the year? That you're like, you'll find out what it is.
Huh?
Yeah, what was it?
Did you find out yet?
No, I don't think.
Interesting.
Oh, the two. I'm hoping he doesn't find out. So we'll probably see more come next week when we take the test. We'll see more if you're on that 2 route or not.
Can you please tell us what it is? It's too late sending me to the office.
Oh, it's too late.
It's a number.
Too late.
So on this, to find the midpoint, you have to be given
Interesting.
2 points. Remember, with your points, x comes first, y comes second. So you have to be given 2 points, then you're going to use this. With this, order does not matter. Unlike the stuff that we've been doing, it doesn't matter which point's the first point and which point's the second point.
Because you're adding.
It makes no difference.
Because you're adding them, right?
Right. So it makes no difference. The other formulas, well, even the NISA, we were adding, but the order made a difference. But for midpoint formula, the order doesn't matter. Again, jumping back to last year in algebra, when you were doing slope, did the order make a difference? Yeah. You had to keep them in the same order all the time. This, it doesn't matter. So, what I'm saying here is, let's just make up 2 points. 2, 5, -3, -4. I don't know. Just made up 2 random points. What's my 2 x's in those 2 points?
2 and -3.
2 and -3. If I want to write them that way, 2 plus a -3, that's fine. if I turn them around and put -3 plus 2, you're still gonna get the same thing. So it makes no difference. Just like with distance formula, sometimes with distance formula, we wanted to turn them around so that we had minus a negative and we could change it to a plus. This time it might be easier to put the negatives out front so that you don't have to put in the parentheses and stuff. Take a second, graph these 2 points on your graph there. Looks like we got 8 for x, so I'm going to put my y over this direction a little bit. So on your graph, you go ahead and graph them on your paper. I'm going to graph them up here. My line's not, or my segment's not very straight. Do we really need to graph it every time? To find the midpoint, do we need to graph it?
No.
No. Could I look at this though and make a guess
Yes.
about where my midpoint is? Tell me when to stop, when I'm about halfway.
Right here.
There?
Yeah.
So we should be somewhere about there. Let's make a guess. See what we should come up with.
3.
3?
No. 2.7. 2.9.
We'll leave it 3. We're just making a guess. How much up?
2.
2.
We should be somewhere close to that point when we do the formula. Alright? What's our x's this time? You might want to do this again like we did with distance formula. That's x, that's a y, that's an x, that's a y. Notice I'm not putting the 1s or the 2s with them because the order doesn't make any difference. What's our x's this time?
Negative
So
2.
-2 plus 8 divided by 2, what's our y's?
1 and 3.
So 1 plus 3 divided by 2. That's what you're going to do every time. You do the x's, comma, do the y's. What's -2 plus 8? 6. Still divided by 2. Michael's a step ahead of us. What's 1 plus 3?
4.
Divided by 2. And then you do the division. What is 6 divided by 2?
3.
4 divided by 2.
See, I'm wicked. You're wicked.
Radical.
Is that pretty close to what we guessed it was going to be?
Yes.
Exactly what we
So that's the midpoint. The only thing with midpoint, I guarantee when we take this test next week, Ethan O, I'm going to see people and they're going to do this. They got 3 and 2 there. They're going to write down 5 as an answer. You're finding the midpoint, so you should have an x coordinate and a y coordinate. You have 2 separate answers. Don't put them together. Sorry, I probably shouldn't even put that up there because somebody's going to write it down and say, well, you told us to do that. No. You have 2 separate answers. With distance formula, how many answers did you have? 1. Midpoint, you have 2 separate answers, an x coordinate and a y coordinate. Go ahead and try this one. Do we need to graph it? You want to graph it? Go ahead and graph it. I'm not graphing mine. What's our x's this time? -6 plus 5 divided by 2. What's our y's?
2 plus 7 divided by
2 plus 7 divided by 2. Make sure x and x. Another mistake I see a lot of students make, they put -6 plus 2 here. That's a y. Don't put the y's where the x's belong, and don't put the x's where the y's belong. What's -6 plus 5? 2 plus 7?
9.
What's negative 1 divided by 2?
-0.5.
-0.5. I'm not even gonna write that, that's silly. -1/2, right? Just leave it that way. 9 divided by 2. 4.5, 4 and half. Why might I leave them if I'm doing a graph? Why might I leave them as a fraction? Is it easier to find half of a block or 0.5 of a block?
Half of a block.
Half. It makes more sense, doesn't it?
Gee.
You ready? Ah!
No, you scared me more than I
You should've went up to
scared
him.
He just kind of looked
Listening.
up.
You should've, like,
Yeah,
walked up to
and
him
it's
and,
like,
You got right, and then screamed really loud.
How you should have like wished, not right into his ear, just whispered like hey there and then just screamed. Like,
yeah.
Why'd you put it literally? It's like 90 degree
damage.
I don't like that.
Are you going to the shack?
That's the goal.
Probably by the time.
What?
You should go to the meeting.
My coaching days
Are you done?
are over with.
Your pants are stretchy.
Find this one on your paper a lot harder on this one. These are the ones I like. So, Branson, you're going to focus right here because these are the hard ones. All right? Find this on your paper. When we do this, we've been just using this second half of the formula because that's all we've needed. We've known both the 2 points and we just plug into here. Other times they may tell you the midpoint and you got to find one of the 2 endpoints. So you might want to write that down. This is when you are finding an endpoint, not a midpoint. So you're finding an endpoint. If I graph this, let's read this first. It says, find the coordinates of A if P, 3, 1/2, is the midpoint. So this is the midpoint. They're telling you the midpoint, and we're trying to find the endpoint of segment AB, and B has coordinates of 8, 3. So I'm going to graph 8, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, 3. That's B. That's one of our endpoints. How am I going to graph 3, 1/2?
right in the middle.
Yeah.
3.
Right,
Half.
3 1/2. So that's point P. That's the midpoint. So does that mean my segment just runs from here to here?
No.
No.
It means it's double that.
Where does my segment go to?
It goes half
Another
down.
half.
It goes halfway down.
So straight through here, and it's going to come down here somewhere. Now I don't know where it's going to end up at. That's what we're going to find. We're finding that endpoint. So what we're doing is we're using the formula backwards. And that's where this part of the formula comes in. What's XM stand for? X coordinate of the midpoint. YM, Y coordinate of the midpoint. So I'm going to write this out. XM, comma, YM equals. When I write the midpoint formula, same as distance formula, I'm probably not ever going to put the little 1s and 2s on there because it doesn't matter which order they go in. So write that on your paper. That's what we're starting with, that whole formula, not just part of it. Do we know the x coordinate of the midpoint?
Yeah.
What is it?
3.
It's
3. Do we know the y coordinate?
Yes.
What's it?
1/2.
If you want, and I'm going to do this just to make your life a little easier maybe, instead of 1/2, what might we write there? 0.5. So let's put that in there. That's supposed to be the y there, I erased it. do we know one of the x coordinates of our endpoints?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it?
8.
8. So I'm actually going to turn it around. Now I'm going to say, okay, I don't know this first one, so I'm going to put an x, but I do know the second one, plus 8. Just because that's the way you're used to seeing things. X come first and the number comes second, right? Divided by 2. What do you think I'm going to write for the y's?
Y plus, yeah, 3.
3 divided by 2. So I'm just getting those. This is an x, that's a y. I'm getting those from right there. So the only thing I'm missing now is I'm missing this x and this y. Now here's where you got to do a little work, and it's not all that real hard. As long as you know the process and you understand the process, it'll be pretty easy. That's your x, right? What's it match up to on the other side? That x part. So all we're going to do is we're going to separate this. We're going to put 3 equals x plus 8 over 2. What do you think I'm going to do with the other part? Set those two equal. So this part equals that part. So what equation am I writing now? Remember, this is a 0.5. 0.5 equals what?
Y plus 3 over 2.
Y plus 3 over 2. Now you got 2 equations you're going to solve. And again, when we take this test next week, what am I probably going to let you use? Your notes and a calculator. If you're not writing this stuff down as we're writing it down to have this example in your notes there, what kind of person are you?
Idiot.
Okay, I'm not allowed to say any of those things, but that's sort of what was going through my head. How do I solve this? This always,
Times by 2.
this is where everybody's got to really pay attention, because this is where you didn't like it in algebra. When you had these fractions, you probably gave up on the problems a lot, right?
Yes.
When you have this big fraction, don't make it harder than it is. All you're going to do is multiply both sides by whatever that denominator is. What's 2 times 3 on this side?
6.
On the other side, don't multiply everything on top by 2. The reason you're multiplying by 2 is to get these to cancel out. What's left on that side then?
X plus 8.
It's that simple.
Good job, Brace.
See, Branson, what happens when you actually focus?
Yeah. I just can't remember formulas.
2 times.
Now, what do I do with this?
Branson, tell him.
What's the last
Oh,
thing?
you minus 8.
Minus 8 on both sides?
Yeah.
He's pretty much a genius now.
So what's x equal?
Negative 2.
Pretty much. I mean, there's just a couple things.
How are you going to solve the y one?
You times it by 2.
Same process, right?
Yup.
Times both sides by 2.
Yup.
Ignore that. Oops, times this side by 2. What's 2 times 0.5?
1.
1. These 2's cancel out. What's left on the other side?
Y plus 3.
Now what?
Negative 2.
Subtract 3 on both sides. Negative 2 equals y. We're not finished yet. What's our answer? What were we looking for?
Negative 2.
coordinate.
We were looking for the ordered pair, right? So let's write it up here.
Negative those,
What's our first, what's our x coordinate?
negative 2.
Negative 2, good. What's our y coordinate?
Negative 2.
Negative 2. Is it always going to come out that way where they're both the same?
Nope.
No. Let's look. Negative 2, negative 2 would be right there. Does that look like it makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the other endpoint would be.
Yeah.
What's the coordinates of the midpoint of that segment?
3 negative
3.5, or 3 comma 1/2, right? They gave us that. We're just doing it backwards, using the formula and doing it backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, as much work as I did here, do I expect that you're going to do all that work every single time?
No.
No, a lot of it you can probably do here, right?
Yeah. Nerd.
Want me to try it? You want me to let you just try this one on your own?
Man, where's this one
This one not on there? It's on the next page. You want to try it on your own, or you just want to do it together?
Do it together.
Do we want to graph it again so we can see it?
I'm gonna try it. Sure.
You want to try it on your own?
I'm gonna try it.
I'll give you about 2 minutes. Try it on your own. See what you get. Don't sit here and do nothing. Try. Know that when I walk around, I'm going to say, "Really, Josie, you're that dumb that you missed that problem?" Am I going to say that? No. So try. These are your notes. No comments from Peanut Head.
Interesting.
Look back at the other one. Can you see the other one? It's right there on the previous page, right? So look back at how we did it and try it. Same way.
You like Dr. Pepper?
Not really, but it's diet, so.
Jeez, that's a lot. Do you drink that a day or a week or?
Usually a week or so.
Yeah.
That's how I live my life too. We just drink it warm.
Is it warm or cold?
It's warm.
Ugh.
That's
Put it
what
in
my
a
mom likes.
refrigerator.
I don't like it that way, it's just that way. I won't drink so much of it.
Did you know warm water is better for you?
Is it?
Yeah, it
I'm
is.
serious, cause cold water, it'll replenish you too much, so you don't wanna drink any more water, so if you drink warm water, I know, I'm actually serious right
It
now.
is.
Alright, Kellen, we believe you. Back to work.
I believe you.
It's fat.
What do we know? So ours and then, right? So looking at this, AJ, where is this hash right gonna go? On this side or this side? If it's the actual min? Over here? Yeah, so X10 is what?
Everything's flashed.
Yeah, and then Y division is one. So why don't you start with that? So that's in the midpoint
I'm
is
not done.
perfect. Y division is four. And then we're trying to find an X and a Y.
As you're trying it at your seat,
And this is our other point.
you can look up here and sort of cheat off me if you get stuck at some point.
I think times it by two.
So it's gonna be like
Why we put,
X
oh wait,
plus
okay.
Y.
Because it's over 2.
Saw that one before.
And then over
That's
two.
You got an imaginary soul figure.
Four plus X is okay too, yeah, so four plus X. And then it's gonna be plus. Yeah, 'cause we don't. And like I said, if I were you, the way you split so well, I think it's smart. So this is your X, right? You care how much it's called, you know, or no? Okay. So this is our X, right? X is in the point, and that's equal to the X is in the X. The X is right. So our equation is gonna be 6 equals. Right? So this is just, we're trying to get X in, right? So we're going to bring up
You want
what happens to those? You do two over here, we do over here. Perfect. So times 6 is 12. Equals.
Stop something up right. 6.
No, it's plus. Yeah, because it's later, right? I'm not gonna tell the person.
It's actually supposed to be-
Wait, Branson, what'd you get?
Something like that.
Bro, what?
I got
I got 0.
What did I do?
What did I do wrong? So what do we come up with?
0, -6.
0 is our x, -6 is our y. That's the end point down here. If I look at my graph, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, somewhere, it should be somewhere about there. Looks up a little bit. My first one was way off because I graphed wrong. Now looking over here. If you messed up on your paper somewhere, try to figure out
I know.
where you messed up at.
I put 16 instead of 12.
I put 6 and -1.
Gotta,
I didn't put variables up there.
16 and the 12, that sounds like one of those things where you gotta be able to read your own writing sometimes, right?
Well, I have good writing. I don't know. I just.
Really not.
Can you read that?
No.
Yeah, you can.
That's because he can't see.
I am blind.
Okay. That's me.
Branson's like, I
At
can't-
least make sure you put down the correct answer on this one so you have it.
Bro's got 0.
I did it.
Did everybody figure out where they messed up at, if they messed up? Yes, no, maybe?
So wait, how do you split it into 2 problems?
So take this part,
Yeah.
set it equal to this part.
Okay. I just.
So x equal to the x part,
Okay.
y equal to the y part.
Okay. You're good. I was just,
Are we all right?
yeah.
Caitlin, is it that bad? You look like you're just having a terrible, terrible day.
I'm just tired.
Fill in what you need to fill in on this.
Ah, that's how you do it.
Another couple more terms that we're going to use throughout the year. Bisects. What do you think bisects means? No, not bicycles, bisects.
Like, sections.
Like splits and sections. Not just sections. What's special about the sections?
They're equal?
They're equal.
Oh.
What's bi tell you?
2.
2 equal sections. Splits into 2 equal sections. If it's a segment bisector, then what's it splitting?
A segment?
The segment
2.
into 2 equal segments. Alright? 2 congruent segments. What do you think a line bisector does?
There's no such thing.
Thank you. There's no such thing as a line bisector. You can't bisect a line. What else can you not bisect?
Array.
Array. And you're right, you can't bisect a trapezoid and all those other shapes either. The only 2 things that really can be bisected, segments, and what we're going to cover next chapter, angles. Segments and angles can be split up equally. What's this symbol mean again? Congruent. If I'm looking at a segment, don't forget this. If I tell you that that's the segment bisector right there, what's that tell me about this segment and this segment? How am I going to show everybody that?
Lines.
Put something on it just so that they match. Doesn't matter if it's just 1, 2, could be circles, whatever. Could be little pictures of elephants. It doesn't make any difference what it is, as long as they match up. On this first example, T is the midpoint of RQ. If T is the midpoint, what do I know about segment RT and segment TQ? They're equal. So what equation can I set up?
2x plus 3.
Write that down on your paper and solve it.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, all that's in the binder.
Are these 2 yours?
No, those aren't his. Somebody else knocked them on the floor and just, they never picked them up.
What a kind gentleman.
forgot.
Wow.
When did you learn that?
Those aren't his.
It's Brian's
Gosh, Michael,
block. I
get
remember
with the program.
The day you did it.
You understand this more?
Yeah. But
We did that.
we did them a few times.
Oh, it's, okay.
Equation.
You ever solved equations in algebra?
I was overanalyzing it.
Alright.
I really don't care about that responsibility.
I'll need to go over and ask him, Mrs. Barnes, how
It's
How
a
you
plan block,
acted
maybe we
last year.
should. Maybe she forgot to cover it, I don't know.
last year you did too? So, that means.
Me and Branson said by you to learn like every class we have.
I don't know how that keeps
Interesting.
Branson won't be sitting there, he's gonna sit up front next class.
Well, there goes the streak.
Does everybody agree x equals 4?
Sucks for you.
What did they ask us to find?
The distance of
The length of segment RT. They didn't ask us to find x, so if you just write that down on the test, come next week, it's gonna be wrong.
Yes.
So you gotta make sure you go back and read the problem. It says find the measure of segment RT. How am I gonna find the measure of segment RT?
Plug 4 back.
Plug 4 in right there where x is. So it's 24, is that 24?
No, 2 times
2 times 4, what's 2 times 4?
8.
Plus 3,
11.
11.
so what's the length of segment RT?
11.
That's our answer.
22 to
22 is the whole thing?
Yeah.
Next one! We ought to make this a quiz grade, shouldn't we? So do it real quick. Figure it out and set it up. Let's go. What do you know about these two segments again? They're equal, they're congruent. Nine, our answer? Plug the 9 in where?
7 minus 5.
Now, I could plug it in here. Could I also plug it in here? Yeah, because those two lengths should be the same, right? So I see some of you, trying to figure out your 9s. If you know what 6 times 9 is, but you don't know what 7 times 9 is, plug it in there, all right? Doesn't make any difference. 7 times 9 minus 5. What is 7 times 9? 63 minus 5. That's our answer.
I mean, it would be that's purely arguing.
Yeah, I know. But I did the wrong number in the first second.
Same thing, right?
Yeah.
Just skip it. I'm tired of it.
Wait, but
Why?
do
No,
it?
it wasn't.
no, because it's not the same.
He
Because
said
you have to
no,
add them
never
together
mind,
after
do it.
this, because we're finding the measure of the whole line.
Oh, so it wants the whole thing this time.
Yours?
All right, let's do it real quick. What equation can I set up?
Jeez, Branson.
Set up that equation. Solve it real quick. You can solve it there on your paper while I'm solving it up here. Ethan O, don't take off your shoes to add up 9 and 3, alright? That confused. You only got 10 fingers, Ethan. So if you got 9 and 3, you go 9, 1, 2, 3. You gotta take off your shoe to count it up.
You don't have to use Cameron's fingers.
You use, alright, use Cameron.
That was so fun.
Yeah, I actually got it this time.
X equals 4, is that our answer?
Got X equals 2, so what did I do wrong this time?
I don't know, look at it and see. Don't just erase it, look at it and see what you did wrong so you don't make that same mistake. What am I gonna do with that 4?
Plug it into X for the whole thing.
Oh,
Do we wanna plug it in both places and do both sets of math?
Yeah.
What do we know about these two segments?
They're the same.
They're the same, so if I find 1,
Multiply by 2.
just multiply by 2, just add that twice. So I'd probably do 2 times 4, because that's pretty easy. What's 2 times 4? 8 plus 9?
17.
So this one's 17, well, what's the other one?
17.
So the whole thing is 34. I don't know why you're doing this. You tell me there's nothing, is that,
Yeah.
the answer's nothing, because that's, when you're pointing at that, that's what I'm thinking. Nothing. This is like sign language.
nothing.
It's not like.
I feel like I'm 3 times more confused.
That'd be like saying if you have your answers on a paper. I get 100% on all my tests.
I still got it wrong.
Brent's gonna be the
You got 10 minutes, get your books out. You got 10 minutes, get your books out. Open up to this page.
Brent's gonna be the kid to have an answer sheet for a test, and then lose the points off because he forgot to put his name in there.
Dude, I got a question wrong because I even did it.
Am I right? Am I right, JD?
Yeah. Be like, dude, what are you The funny part is I couldn't even go to school. I tried. Dude, you're overreacting.
Are you saying that's why I go away? Or are you going to?
Probably all this is,
What do you need help with?
I must have something zeroed out or something, so it's not showing the overall grade.
Oh, I found it.
Okay.
What is it?
My eraser. Keep falling on my desk.
Page 55, we'll get as many of these done as possible. What we don't get done is your assignment. We wasted a lot of time today.
Why?
We could have a whole bunch of this.
Why do you guys put this away? I mean, I guess we have them on the board.
Yeah, how did?
Yeah, but
He's doing it.
Test?
As soon as it's time to go around the room.
Some of them are sort of easy though, I bet, so we could probably do them real quick. Like number 13, D to E. Can somebody just find the coordinate of the midpoint of D to E?
9.
9? Everybody see how you got that? Do we really have to use the formula
I
for
just
that?
counted spaces.
Right. If we're on the number line like that and it's so easy, we could just count. 2 this way, 2 this way, comes out that the coordinate's 9. 14, segment BC.
15. We're doing 15.
Oh, we're doing 15, my fault. BD. 3, everybody agree with 3?
No.
Yes.
No?
8.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's what the quarter is.
17, maybe a little harder on 17, might not be able to just do that, we'll see. Callie wants to build a fence halfway between her house and her neighbor's house. How far away from Callie's house should the fence be built?
7.
So, halfway between her house and her neighbor's house. Let's do the actual math here. What's the start, what's the edge of Callie's house at? 10 plus edge of her neighbor's house? 28 divided by 2,
38
so 38 over 2. What's that give you?
14.
19.
19. Now, let's read the question again. How far, so we'd be out at 19, right? How far away from Callie's house should the fence be? Is it 19 feet from her house?
13.
It's 19, but then her house takes up 10, right? So we'd have to do 19 minus 10, so how many feet from her house? 9 feet.
I was literally.
Number 19. I'll jump over here for 19 because I need space to work. Says find the coordinates of the midpoint. They give you 2 points. Do we need to graph it?
No.
No, we're just using this formula right here. Are we using the formula backwards like we did on those last couple of problems?
No.
No. So all we're doing is plugging in X's and Y's, and dividing by 2 on each one. Looking at that, you can write X, X, Y, Y in your book there if you need to. What's our 2 X's?
5 and 3.
5 and 3, everybody agree with that? So 5 plus 3, what's our 2 Y's? 11 and 1, everybody see where he's getting that from? Yes, no, maybe? Yeah, you.
How'd you get 3 for 15?
It's a coordinate.
There's no coordinate.
You find the midpoint. You're finding the midpoint.
So you're finding the coordinate of the midpoint, so we're going BD, right?
Mhm.
What coordinate, here, let's do this. What coordinate is B, Ethan?
-1.
-1 plus, this is the formula. What coordinate is D?
7.
What's -1 plus 7?
6.
What's 6 divided by 2?
3.
The coordinate, look at the coordinate. Find 3 and put your finger on it. Where would 3 be?
C.
Does the C look like it's right in the middle between B and D?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're not finding the length, you're finding just the coordinate on the number line.
Okay.
Alright, does that make sense? You look like we're still confused.
Sure.
No, why, I wanna make sure that you understand. How come you're still confused? What's still going on?
I don't know.
So if let's draw the number line up here. B is at -1, right?
Mhm.
D is at 7. We wanna find what's right in the middle, exactly in the middle, correct?
Oh, okay.
So look at C, how many spaces from B is C?
4.
How many spaces from D is C?
4.
So that's right in the middle. And the coordinate for C is the number 3. Does that make sense?
Yes and no.
Anybody get 19 here? What's 5 plus 3? 8 divided by 2? 11 plus 1 divided by 2?
6.
That's our answer. 4, 6. Again, 2 separate answers. You got an X coordinate, you got a Y coordinate.